Hello everyone, welcome back to Mentors Academy. So today is the 27th of September 2025 and we'll cover some of the most important current affairs of today's news from The Hindu, The Indian Express, PIB and also other reliable sources explained in detail for your exam relevance, right? So these current affairs are extremely relevant for all your competitive exams including UPSC, CSC, prelims, mains, CAPF, EPFO and all the state PCS exams. So as always, let's begin with yesterday's MCQs first. We'll recap the MCQs and then move to today's key headlines and then the articles in detail, right? So yesterday's MCQs, the first question was, with reference to Agni Prime missile, consider the following statements. It is an intercontinental ballistic missile with a range exceeding 5,000 kilometers. 2. It has a canisterized launch capability and can be launched from road as well as rail platforms. 3. It is part of India's Agni missile series developed by DRDO. Which of the above statements is or are correct? A. 1 and 2 only, B. 2 and 3 only, C. 1 and 3 only, D. 1, 2 and 3. Right? So the correct answer to this question is option B, 2 and 3 only. So the first statement is wrong. Agni Prime is not an intercontinental ballistic missile. Its range is around 1000 to 2000 kilometer. It's a medium range missile. And the statement 2 is correct. It has canisterized launch capability and can be launched from both road as well as rail platforms. Statement 3 is also correct. It is indeed part of India's Agni missile series developed by DRDO, Defense Research and Development Organization. The second question was, consider the following statements about Manrega. Consider the following statements about Manrega, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. 1. It provides 150 days of guaranteed wage employment to every rural household. At least one-third of beneficiaries must be women. Recently, 40% of its funds have been reserved for water conservation works. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? A. 1 and 2 only, B. 2 and 3 only, C. 1 and 3 only, D. 1, 2 and 3. Right? So the correct answer to this question is also option B, 2 and 3 only. Statement 1 is wrong. It guarantees 100 days, not 150 days. Right? Statement 2 is correct. One-third beneficiaries must be women. It is right. And the statement 3 is also correct. Recently, 40% funds have been reserved for water conservation works. That is right. So yeah, let's move on to today's key headlines. I'll read them one by one. Trump slaps tariffs on drugs, trucks, furniture and 100% tariff on import of patented pharma products. Wangchuk detained under NSA 2 days after violence in Leh. India-EU strategic agenda. New farming technology holds potential to stop desertification. MiG-21 jets fly into history after 6 decades of service. Government survey on research and development in India gets weak response from private sector, right? So these are key current affairs of today's news headlines. So let's know them one by one in detail. Right, the first article is about US tariffs on Indian exports. The US under the President Trump has imposed 100% tariffs on patented pharma products and heavy duties on drugs, trucks and furniture, directly affecting the Indian exporters. So tariffs, what are tariffs exactly? Tariffs are the import duties levied on goods. So India is one of the world's leading suppliers of generic drugs, furniture and auto components to the US. So while WTO rules allow retaliatory tariffs, trade wars usually strain these bilateral ties. That's the main concern, right? So India's pharma sector. India's pharma's exports, especially affordable generic medicine, may be hit badly, and bilateral relations could weaken even as India participates in the IPEF, Indo-Pacific Economic Framework Cooperation. So this may push India to diversify export markets, especially towards Africa and Southeast Asia. We have to diversify our market. So for prelims, it's important to know about the WTO rules and the basics, World Trade Organization, and also IPF organization, right? And for mains, you must connect this to protectionism versus free trade and Indo-US trade diplomacy. So these are the two concepts you must connect to. The next article is about Wang Shuk detained under NSA, National Security Act 1980. Right, so climate activist Sonam Wangchuk was detained under the NSA Act, National Security Act 1980, after the recent violence in Leh. So the NSA, the National Security Act, it allows preventive detention for up to 12 months for reasons of public order or national security. Very important. 12 months for the reasons of public order and national security. So Ladakh has been politically sensitive since the 2019 abrogation of Article 370, with growing demands for statehood and sixth schedule protection for the tribal rights, right? So detention of a well-known and respected activist, it raises debates on civil liberties and security needs. So it reflects the unresolved governance challenges in Ladakh post 2019. It also puts the spotlight on preventive detention powers under Article 22 of the Indian Constitution. Very important article, preventive detention. For prelims, it's important to know about the provisions of National Security Act and the preventive detention under Article 22 of Indian Constitution. And for mains, connect this to civil liberties, balancing fundamental rights and national security, preventive detention, and also Ladakh's governance model. The next article is about India-EU strategic agenda. So India and the European Union have launched a new strategic agenda till 2030. We have already seen this a few days back. So it covers trade, technology, climate, and global governance partnerships. So the EU, the European Union, is India's third largest trading partner. Important data, fact. So past negotiations for a free trade agreement stalled over tariffs, data protection, and sustainability standards, right? The focus here is on reviving the FTA talks and cooperating in digital technology, green hydrogen, and also maritime security. So both sides have pledged to strengthen the global south representation in multilateral forums. So this is part of India's balancing strategy in the multipolar world. So prelims, it's important to know about the institutions, EU institutions, and the Green Deal. And for mains, India EU ties, very important, and the role of economic diplomacy and the multipolar order, right? So I have a question for you. So if India successfully signs an FTA with the EU, let's say, so how will it affect small scale industries in India? Will it open up opportunities or it will create a new competition challenges? Think about this carefully, because linking global trade policies to domestic industry impacts is exactly the kind of analysis these competitive exams expect from you in both prelims and mains, right? So drop your thoughts in the comment section below about this particular question, right? The next article is about anti-desertification farming technology. So new farming technologies are showing potential to halt desertification, one of India's major land degradation challenges. Desertification is land degradation in arid and semi-arid areas. So around India has around 30% of land degraded, right? With hotspots in Rajasthan, Gujarat, and Maharashtra. The UNCCD, United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, it guides global efforts. Very important institution. So, use of biochar, micro irrigation techniques, and regenerative farming helps the soil recover, right? It restores the soil health. And pilot projects in Rajasthan have shown better water retention and reduced land erosion. So these techniques could play a role in achieving and land restoration goals under SDG 15, right? So for UPSC, its prelims relevance is UNCCD, very important, and the desertification hotspots. Also, for mains, connect this to sustainable agriculture, climate adaptation, and also land restoration policies, very important. The next article is about MiG-21 retired after 6 decades. So the Indian Air Force has formally retired the MiG-21 fighter jets after 60 years of service. 60 years of service. So MiG-21s were introduced in the year 1963 from the Soviet Union. The MiG-21, it was India's first supersonic jet. India's first supersonic jet, very important. So it played a crucial role in the 1971 war and the Kargil conflict 1999, but was nicknamed the Flying Coffin. It was nicknamed the Flying Coffin due to frequent crashes, right? So the MiG-21 is being replaced by Tejas light combat aircraft. Yesterday we have seen this, right? And other modern fighter jets. It symbolizes India's shift from defense imports to indigenous defense technology, very important. So it highlights the broader journey of defense modernization and indigenization. For prelims, it's important to know about the history of MiG-21 and also the basics of LCA Tejas. And for mains, know about defense modernization, defense reforms, and the indigenization versus the imports. The next article is about a weak private sector research and development participation. So, government survey revealed that weak private sector participation in research and development. So, India spends only 0.7%, important data, 0.7% of its GDP on the research and development compared to 2 to 3% in developed countries like US and also China and Korea. So the public sector dominates while private sector lags behind. So private firms, they avoid research and development due to long gestation periods and the low returns. Weak industry academia linkages. The weak industry academia linkages, they hold back innovation. The government is trying to fix this with the national research and development policy and schemes like PLI, production linked incentive schemes. For prelims, it's very important to know about the India's research and development expenditure. Also for mains, you can mention this in your answers, and about the schemes like PLI. And for mains, it's very important to connect to innovation ecosystems and role of private sector in the technology development, very important. So these are key current affairs of today's news. Now let's test your knowledge with the two prelims model practice MCQs. The first question is, with reference to preventive detention in India, consider the following statements. 1. Article 22 of the Constitution provides for both preventive and punitive detention. 2. The maximum detention under the National Security Act 1990 without advisory board approval is 3 months. 3. Only Parliament, not state legislatures, has the power to make laws on preventive detention. Which of the above given above is or correct? 1 and 2 only, 2 only, 1 and 3 only, 1, 2 and 3. The second question is, consider the following pairs regarding global conventions and their mandates. UNCCT, land degradation and desertification. UNFCCC, transboundary movement of hazardous waste. CBD, conservation of biodiversity and genetic resources. Which of the above pairs is or are correctly matched? 1 and 3 only, 2 only, 1 only, and 1, 2 and 3. So please drop your answers in the comment section below. We'll be checking your responses and we'll see the correct answer to these questions in the next current affairs session. We also have two mains questions for you to practice answer writing. The first question is, the retirement of MiG-21 aircraft marks the end of an era in India's air defense. Discuss the significance of this transition in the context of indigenization and modernization of India's defense forces. 10 marker 150 words question. India's private sector contribution to research and development remains minimal despite policy initiatives. Critically analyze the reasons and suggest measures to enhance private participation in India's innovation ecosystem. 15 marker 250 words question. Right, so that wraps up today's current affairs session. We covered US tariffs, preventive detention debates, India EU strategy, anti-desertification technology, MiG-21 retirement, and the research and development gaps, each directly mapped to your exam syllabus. If you found this session useful and valuable, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Mentors Academy. Always remember, this news is just the raw material. What the exam really tests is your ability to analyze issues across polity, economy, environment, defense, and society. For that matter, all the static concepts and static subjects. So, thank you so much for turning in today. Stay consistent, keep revising, and keep connecting current affairs with your static syllabus. Right? So, thank you again. Have a good day, you all.